Yeah.
I'm on, yeah, so it's 12 o'clock here.
Oh, oh, you Central Time then. So yeah. So
Yes,
12 o'clock
Central.
in the week, 10 o'clock on Sundays.
Yes.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Brilliant. 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 We are live. We are live. We are live.
We
Bina.
are live. She
Bina.
actually sent a message. She had to go to a dinner really
Oh,
quick. She'll be
okay.
back.
Okay. All right. All right. All right. All right. Brilliant. So yeah. I was just going to ask her to recap a bit on her freedom thoughts. Because yesterday, I want to continue what we did yesterday, but add a tweak to that. Oh, excuse
Yeah.
me. So yesterday, Jessica, because what we're doing in the weekdays is to go over what was read on the Sunday. Because in Sundays I read it and then we discuss afterwards, and then in the week we do that line by line, thought by thought, capital R reading, right? And we
Hmm.
go into it in super detail. But yesterday I said, because when I came up to it, Sher was talking about impeccability, and we were going into her understanding of impeccability and what it means, and what exactly it means, and how it applies, etc., 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 and all the details of it, right? So I
Hmm.
said, one excellent way of understanding something is to look for its application, to see it, to recognize it, and then to explain how it applies. Right? This really tests your understanding of this. So we did that with impeccability and the characters, right? To look at Shah, because this chapter is all about Shah and Biella now. To look at Shah and Biella and say, are they being impeccable? Or not, or where could they maybe be a little bit more impeccable? Not only Shah and Biella, but also that infernal machine. Say, is the infernal machine being impeccable? And it turns out, even though it doesn't seem impeccable from behavior, it actually is, right? So this is quite a big deal when we look at this all in these different ways. But we want to continue that today. We want to continue looking at all the behaviors, and we'll continue doing this all throughout the reading of the whole book. That we want to see, hey, how are they being impeccable, right? And how does the impeccability apply? Because it does in some way or another. Now, with Shaw, a little bit, she was a bit influenced by the machine. Not the most ideal, but she wasn't being unimpeccable, as it were, right? She just was but open to influence, as you were saying. We don't want to be open to influence, not entirely so, but a little bit, right? But then she also, was able to go with it, and she did lots of things that are pretty cool. So we get to understand their thinking and their way of being, and this is most magically potent and important. That we want to do that. So we want to continue doing this today, but what I want to do also is to add in this extra understanding, since this has been our theme for the day, and I like to do the theme. So let me just do one more thing here. One more thing. All right, I just got to make sure that give the link here. Somebody asked me for the link, and give them the link to come now that we're live. There we go. There we go. There we go. Uh, And anybody that's here, please say hello. If you come, well, nobody's here now. It seems like it, but if you are here, just say hello in comments there. I like to know when you guys are here, and I feel like you're included. Anyway, so I was saying
So,
that. What's that?
you know, a capital U understanding is also a form of validation. But it's
Exactly.
it's not, and it's
Exactly.
saying I understand. So, when you capital U understand, you're validating yourself, you're validating the other
Yeah.
person, and you're validating the difference.
Right. So I want to say quickly, I'm going to come to understanding in a minute. I just wanted to finish that point I was trying to make there. That when we look at in terms of what we're going to be doing with these go overs, these capital R readings, right? Yes, we're looking to apply awareness, discernment, and understanding to this, right? Really getting into it, the nuance, the extraness, to come to where we can use these things, right? But I want to apply now this particular connectivity to impeccability, and we'll always be there. But today I want to also add freedom and look at the characters, the story, and how it connects to freedom, because that's been our theme here, right? And we're going to apply this capital U understanding. First of all, I have to just do something very important here. Very, very, very important. I have to say hello to Bina and to Norma. Hello, Norma. Hello, Norma. Bina's hello was directed at Norma, so we're both saying hello, Norma. Hello, 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 Norma. So brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. I love it. I love it that you guys are here. Oh, well, at least Bina is busy elsewhere, but I love it that you're here, Norma. It's important. It's important that you're here. It's a very important thing.
I
So
always love
brilliant.
telling people hello, beautiful people.
Yes, yes, yes. So good morning, Norma. Good Normas. Good Normas. You see now it's Mornis and Norma all combined. So good Normas to you. Yes, now yeah. But good mornings to you. Yes, I love it. I love hello. I love hellos. Yes, hello is a very magical thing. On Nobelia, hello is has a particular importance, because they say hello world a lot, right? And hello world isn't just hello, it's a greeting, in a capital G, greeting, right? So if you're going to go and greet the world, like let's say you were to go to some big conference, and you've got whoever there, right? Well, like when you were a kid and you went into the principal's office, you don't just say hey to the principal, right? I don't know, maybe in today's things, maybe so. But when I went, you greeted the principal with all the due respect for the fact that they're a principal, not the person necessarily. Might not have liked the person, but for the office, yes. So yeah, good Normus, yes. I like it too. My point is, when you give a greeting, right, it is a profound thing when you're greeting something with full respect and reverence and appreciation and moreness and all of this, yes. So you hear me greeting Norma. This is an important thing to greet. But when you do this to the world is a whole order of magnitude, and how can I say hello to the world? And when I truly say hello world, how can I not add that reverence to it, that appreciation, that absolute just overwhelmedness of how much you love the world and how incredible the world is, how awesome it is, and so on, right? So when we greet the world, it connects us to moreness in a very direct way. Because greeting the world, if you're going to greet the world appropriately, you have to connect to all that moreness and bring it into your greeting. So for the new nobility, when they say hello world, that's how they say hello world. It is to bring all of that magic and moreness and awesomeness and reverence and appreciation and grace and everything into it, right? So this is a profound action, and it reminds us, and it maintains our, not only our humility, but also our appreciation, our connectedness, right? Our interactedness with moreness. So hello world, a very, very big deal then. Exactly. This is the right one, Norma. Well, it just started, you see, so you couldn't come to it before because it's live. So it only starts when we start, because it's happening right now. It's not pre-recorded. See, so that's why you didn't see it earlier. You'll only see it once it starts. Just the peculiarities of the live. There's no way around it. Can only be that way. So to continue on the hello world thing, and I was just saying this to Bina earlier because I was singing it. So the anthem of Nobelia, of the new nobility, right, consists of only two words. Can you guess what those two words are? Bina, Jessica?
What was the question again?
I said I was explaining about hello world and how profound this is and how big deal it is and the greeting of it. And I said, and the anthem, well, it's not a national anthem. I guess it's a cultural, societal, a planetary anthem. But anyway, the anthem of the new nobility, of Nobelia, the Nobelia anthem, is two words only.
Hello world.
Isn't it?
Can you
Okay.
guess what they are?
Hello
In fact,
world.
there you go. Hello world. So, and you sing it in every type of different positive, appreciative way that you can, right? So I'm not the greatest singer, but it's hello world, hello world, hello. I may want to sing it. Hello world. I don't know. I may want to sing hello world, right? And then they layer it, right? So everybody's singing hello world in different ways, but that's it, So that's the national anthem. Just 2 words. Everybody can sing it. Yeah. So it's very cool, fun thing. Just a fun thing. I got it written out somewhere how to sing it, maybe a bit better. Explains it. But once you join in and you get the feel of it, it doesn't matter. It's got a basic melody, and there's not much you can do with it, so you can't really go wrong. So it's pretty cool, pretty fun. But I do want to emphasize this point though about hello world. And I do recommend saying it. You can't do it in your head. You got to say it out loud. Got to be paying attention to the world. Hello world. Hello world. It's a profound act of connectivity, and it's a spiritual activity when you truly greet the world in a capital G greeting. Right? You got to put all your understanding of what you're doing is to give that full due respect and due appreciation and due love, due care, due connectivity. All of it is in there. Yes. So very, very, very big deal. No, Norma, I won't. But still, I do sing it a lot to myself. I'm very cognizant of not torturing others. Yes, I do try not to. So anyway, Habina, I was saying to Jessica that in addition to paying attention today as we go through the story to how impeccability applies, how they're using it, or not, or how much more they can, or wherever, right? To see, recognize, and comment and elucidate on the impeccability application, right? Because that helps us to understand what it is and gives us a deeper. We're going to add freedom to this, right? So we're going to, as we agreed, we're going to have our ear open for anything that connects to freedom, exemplifies freedom, helps to expand, explain, understand freedom, right? So yes, capital U understanding is a very, very big deal, Jessica, because if we understand, then we can let go of our emotional connectivities. We say that again. When we truly understand, we can let go of our emotional connectivities that are not our choice. Yes. Like for instance, when you really, really understand there's nothing really to forgive, and forgiveness is the need for a particular emotional resolution. Well, get it through understanding. That's it. When you understand, it all works out. You get it. I understand. Now I can choose how I wish to feel about it. Yes. I can choose to not be bothered by it. And that's typically what happens. I don't really have to choose. Understanding brings that emotional resolution of its own accord. Right. This is the magic of capital U understanding, because it leads to application. If you really, really understand what needs doing, how do you not do it? Yeah.
Well,
If
you
you
can't not do it, because
exactly.
it is impossible. It's just like when you understand something, you can't not just simply understand something. You know what I mean? It's impossible. So, and yes, what you're just talking about was like when you understand, there's literally nothing to forgive. When you understand your part that you played in something, as well as they understand where somebody else is coming from within their own beliefs and things like that, then there's a heated conversation or something happens, there's literally nothing to forgive when you can understand all 360 views side of it.
Exactly. And when you really understand, then you can only act, or in some cases just accept. Well, it is what it is. There's nothing more to do. So understanding is huge. Understanding is what leads to peace of being, right, Bina? Yeah, Bina, where Bina
Sorry,
go?
my mute button was not like, okay, I was just
Oh,
anyway.
okay.
So yes, so please just say it again.
Right. So I'm saying when we really understand, there's not much. Well, either you got to act because I understand I need to act, or on some things where it's just, well, I understand. There's no more to do but simply accept, and that's how we come to peace of being, because that's what true understanding is. Is it not the same thing as peace of being? Because the world makes sense when we understand.
it's a big thing to say that.
Oh, it's a very big thing. I know it's a huge
because
thing.
when you say that, it's like, okay, it is connecting to this and this and this. Yes, at least right now, when I'm just considering it, yes, a lot of things resolved when we understand that. At least when we become aware of more than one perspective of that thing or that issue or that situation, or just having this understanding, or at least just even one more than that, just the other one perspective, sometimes just shift your whole mood and energy and everything, and also that emotional connectivity, what you were saying about. Because the presence or the existence of a different perspective is also a surety that you are not emotionally connected to that. Otherwise you would not be able to have a different perspective on that. That would be like, okay, I'm stuck here. This is what mostly happened. When we are emotionally connected to something, we are not able to see the different perspective on that. So for me, it is whenever we are having a different perspective, why they are all like, okay, yes, now maybe this can also happen. This also could be the situation. This also could be a perspective on that. It means that we are not emotionally connected to that anymore. So this is actually yes, but I would not say that like 100%. I need to think more about this.
Now look what Bina just did there. See Bina's impeccability, even though it makes sense to her. She's not saying, oh yeah, I get it, that makes sense. She wants to check it, she wants to double check it, she wants to be thorough, she wants to take it all the way to the end. Impeccability in action. Absolutely. That's very important what Bina just did there. This is part of her doings generally. Very powerful. Even though it makes sense to her, she still goes and checks it. Yeah, yeah. Yes, lack of understanding can absolutely slow down conversations. Yeah, but still, we keep going. Doesn't matter. We're not put off by that. We don't care. We want to get to understanding, because as Jessica pointed out, right, Jessica, capital U understanding is huge. We start with awareness and we're sort of aware of what's going on. But then we realize our awareness is not enough, right? And it's only seeing the surface of things. We need to go deeper. There's more. It's not just what we see, what we hear. It's not just the surface things. There's more, there's more, there's more. So we learn discernment. We start looking at those layers. Then we take the product of the discernments and we start applying it, right? And then we come to understanding. Yes, we discern, we figure out, we put it together, we think it through to the end. All of that is part of discernment. We come to understanding. Now we've changed because, well, for one thing, the emotionality is resolved. And two, it gives us clarity of purpose, intent, understanding, awareness. We know what's going on, so we can act as appropriate. Whether that action be simply just appreciating and enjoying, or if it's some other thing, doesn't matter. Whatever it is, we act. Yeah, very powerful. Very, very powerful. Yes, very valuable, Bina. Thank you. Jessica, would you read for me, please, there in your best Sher voice, what Sher said there in comments? Can you do that, or are you on the phone? Because it's tricky on the phone.
Yeah, I'm on my phone, but let me hold on.
Just switch between the apps. You just switch between the apps. Yeah, just have.
I actually can open up my Facebook app, so we're good on my phone.
There we go. Okay.
This is the post. Okay.
Some people struggle to do this. Dang it! This thing fell over, and it fell over again. I spilled a gallon of water on myself earlier this morning.
Oh no!
Yeah, that's all right. I did it before too. No, peculiar circumstance, but what can you do? You can eat pineapple flavored gummies that are most delicious. See, I love sweets and I really enjoy sweets, but you know, instead of sweets, I'm eating flavored gummies now. Sea moss and keto and God knows what, or I don't even know what they all do, but anyway. Oh, this one is a vitamin B complex. It's great. I love it. But anyway, I eat them as sweets. So
there you go.
Hello, Elizabeth. Hello, Elizabeth. I just want to say hello to Elizabeth. Hello, Sher too.
Elizabeth.
I love it. Yeah. So please read, not just read what Cher said, but read it in your best Cher voice.
Cher, in future, I apologize.
Go ahead.
Okay. So Cher wrote, I would say yes. Peace of being is for me to understand. Like, I like to insist it makes sense. Let me repeat that again. I like to insist it makes sense. When I tell myself it makes sense, it's easier to let go of the stress associated with uncertainty. No uncertainty leaves me with peace of being. That is very, I definitely can relate to that. And reason being is because even if it's something that it doesn't automatically make sense right away, it alleviates that uncertainty.
Yes.
It enhances that peace of being. And eventually it's trusting, capital T, trusting that you will understand everything when it comes to comes to a certain situation or anything else like that.
Yes. And trusting, capital T, trusting that things do make sense, that life itself does make sense, that the universe itself does make sense. I want to read that again, but before we do that, Bina, can you say hello to the last person to say hello there, please, but out loud.
Okay, but out loud to who?
To the last
comments?
person. I don't want to say their name. You've got to say their name. That's why I'm asking you to say hello, because they've got a name that just begs to be said in a special way. So let's hear.
Oh, let me go there again, because somehow it just dropped. So I need to go there.
Oh. The one whose name I enjoy saying every day.
Oh, okay. Hello, Ramsey. Hello, Ramsey.
There we go. Ramsey. It's Ramsey. Ramsey Najjar. I know Ramsey's name just lends itself to drama somehow. I know. I love it. So hello, Ramsey. Hello. Brilliant. And hello, Elizabeth also is here. And that's wonderful. So that Elizabeth is listening, and we hear you listening, Elizabeth. I really feel it. I hear you listening. It's wonderful. Would you read Cher's comment again, please? This is a wonderful comment. Yes. Hello, Ramsey. Hello, Ramsey. I really enjoy you being here, Ramsey. It gives me great joy. So yes, I enjoy having fun with your name, but that's because I enjoy you. So it's just a mechanism for me to express that, right? But Bina, please reread Cher's comment. This is a huge comment, right? This is a massive comment. This is in response to I was saying that understanding, capital U, understanding leads to peace of being.
Okay. So Shah says, I would say yes. Peace of being is for me to understand, capital U, understand. I like to insist it makes sense. When I tell myself it makes sense, it's easier to let go of the stress associated with uncertainty.
It's easier to let go of the stress associated with uncertainty. Easier. She's not saying it happens automatically. Easier, right? Nuance there. And this is because Cher is saying, I'm telling myself it makes sense. It may not just yet, but I'm going to tell myself so as a starting point. I'm not just going to believe it blindly, but as a starting point. Yes? Yes, Jessica, to understand the nuance here, right? Because that's what I heard from you when you were reading it. Yeah? Oh, Jessica muted. Keep going.
No, uncertainty leaves me with peace of being. So the no uncertainty leaves me with peace of being. This is
exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes, to understand the nuance here, as well as also to capital
Oh, you're muted.
You muted yourself again. A quick point here while Jessica figures out to mute. If you click on the mute button, well, you're on your phone, so that won't work. But for those on computers, sometimes when we click on it and then if you tap the space bar, it will toggle it on and off. And also on the phones, be careful of tapping mute and then tapping it again, like tapping too quickly, because there's a slight delay on Zoom. So if you tap and you tap again, you will put it off and then put it back on again, right? So you have to tap once and wait.
I unmuted myself, and I don't know, I was on 2 different apps, so it was kind of being lost.
I see. Okay.
I'm back on the Zoom app.
Okay. Right. So go ahead with what you were saying. We kind of lost you halfway through there. Oh. Well, that explains a lot. All right. Having connection issues.
I just want to say something about what Shah has said, that exactly that capital R receptivity, like insisting on that it does make sense, whatever this person is saying, which might not be the case. This is we should need to just to keep it in our mind that always
repeat that, please.
Yes, that whatever that person is sharing or whatever that situation is projecting, that might not make sense.
Exactly.
But we insist that in that particular moment that it does make sense.
Correct.
How it does make sense for that person, for the situation, we might not be able to. This receptivity can only happen, can only be with us once we don't have any fear of, it might be if I will just acknowledge that it does make sense, it somehow just belittle me, or somehow I will be okay, oh yes, people think of me or something like as a minor or something like that. That all those nonsense are not with us. Then we can only be receptive that, okay, yes, if even if this stupid thing is just being shared and I'm saying that, okay, how does it make sense? Because just by insisting, as Cher was saying, that to me that it does make sense, I am giving due respect to that person, to that perspective, to that situation. It is not going to harm me. That self-trust, again, what you mentioned about the self-trust. I do have this understanding. Even the most bizarre idea can be complete nothing for me, that because I'm like a waterproof person right now. Whatever is coming, yes, it does make, okay, let's see. And I can explore that. Like all the doctors, they deal with deadly viruses. They don't get fear of that, okay, they are going to
Exactly.
No.
Also, saying something makes sense and insisting to yourself that it makes sense. Basically, if you're unable to come to an immediate understanding and you need some thought into it, you need to put some thought into it, you need to really see it for, and hear them out, and, hear the opposite person out as well. It gives you that time to basically, not on the back burner, but put it kind of in like a Rolodex, essentially a mental Rolodex to come back to. And as a reference, it'd be like, okay, well, makes sense. That makes sense. And then, because it really alleviates, like Sharon said, it does alleviate the unnecessary, capital U, unnecessary stress. And it helps you kind of give yourself that pause moment mentally to really and truly like see it from multiple different perspectives.
Exactly. And that multiple perspectives is very powerful. And also, this is a sophisticated understanding of the peculiarities of our brains and how they work and our psychologies. In this, that what we believe, we tend to confirm. What we believe, we tend to make an effort to confirm, right? And that's confirmation bias. Now, in this capital R receptivity, we are going to use this confirmation bias positively. Because when I insist it makes sense, even if I can't see how, my brain, by me I'm not even believing this. I'm insisting on it. I'm going beyond belief. I'm saying it does make sense. Now when I says, well, how? And it starts looking for ways how it makes sense. Now I'm making the effort to figure out how it makes sense, which I would otherwise not have done. Yes. And then I would never see how it can make sense and how it does make sense. But I would have been blind to that otherwise, because I never even decided to do that, right? And this is now, as Sher says, when we figure out and we apply this to ourselves, like we make sense. And when we apply it to the world, to the universe, and this, right? Or some new point of understanding that somebody says, if I don't insist it makes sense because it's new, it's unusual, it's different, it's weird, I just say, it's weird. That is probably, and then we just kind of assume it's nonsense or it doesn't make sense, right? And we write it off. And in other words, we can only then make sense of or see and see the sense of things that we already know. If something is beyond us, outside of our knowing, if we don't insist it makes sense when it's new and unfamiliar and kind of weird and crazy and unusual, we'll never, ever get there, right? Because we'll only see as far as that our abilities and our current understandings are. So this sophisticated technique, this capital R receptivity of assigning sense to things, we are assigning it, right? By assigning sense, enables the brain to find the justifications, the rationales, the understandings, right, of how it does make sense, which broadens our worldview. It's a very profound thing for not only broadening our worldview, but of our self-view. Yes, when we insist we make sense, we can broaden our understanding of ourselves. Yeah.
Yes, I actually, and this, as I was listening to you, so the thought came into my head is, oh my goodness, by asking people, does that make sense? I was seeking validation because I lacked that own personal validation myself to truly accept that. Yeah, it makes sense because it makes sense to me.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Exactly.
Okay. That was like a light bulb, like ding.
I ask like what? Right, but I'm asking it because I want to check. And when I hear this, right, like when we're doing this, and you say, yeah, it makes sense. Okay, I can hear a lot from how you say yes. If you say, yeah, right, then I'm like, And sometimes even if it's in text, I can see by the pause, the delay, and sometimes what came before. So you'll be surprised how much you can pick up just from a single word sometimes, even in text, because timing is a factor that's a variable, and you can tell a lot from timing. So, but when I say this, I'm asking, and it's creating an opportunity, it's creating an option for, if it doesn't quite make sense, you can say, well, yeah, kind of, but I need more clarity. Like Bina said, you know what, I've got to come back to this. It makes sense. She said this. It makes sense to me, but I got to think about it some more, right? So this is opening that door, and that's very key. It's like what you're saying with understanding. This is the power of repeat backs. We don't ever want to just trust our understanding. We want to check it. Because you might say something and you say, do you understand? I say, yes, I understand. And then I go and explain it to somebody else, and you're like, seriously? He said he understood, but he's got a clue what I was saying. So when I repeat it back to you in my own words, that's the key. It has to be in your own words. Then you demonstrate understanding. And that's what we're doing with these capital R readings, right? We're sharing our own words, our own perceptions, our own understandings. This is very powerful. Will you read Sher for me again, please, there? Sher's comment. Yes, exactly. But I'll wait for. I mean, Sher. Yes. Jessica to read it, please. And what happened to Bina? Come back, Bina.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. I just wanted to read Sher's comment there. That's what I was waiting for. The last one there. The checking one.
Are you able to hear me, Sel?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay. Okay. Checking is different from asking for validation. Let me read that again. Checking is different from asking for validation. Sometimes we are self-checking out loud.
I ask that question too. It's also a good way to dig deeper on the topic.
Sorry, I got notifications popping up here that I was doing some. Read it again for me, please. I wasn't paying attention. I got distracted there. They were covering it, so I couldn't read. Go ahead. You're muted. I'll have to read it. Checking is different from asking for validation. Sometimes we are self-checking out loud. Dang, these notifications just keep popping up. And then it brings 3 windows with it. Checking is different from asking for validation. Sometimes we are self-checking out loud. Exactly, sure. Exactly. Very, very powerful point. I ask that question too. It's also a good way to dig deeper on the topic. Yes, in my opinion. Yes, in your humble opinion. Yes. Yes, it's always a humble opinion with you. It's taken for granted there. So absolutely, this is a very powerful topic. It's a very powerful topic. Ramzi, I want to hear from you. And of course, Elizabeth, when time comes, Norma, I want to hear from you too. Yes, this point of receptivity, it comes up a lot. It's a very, very profound point, and it's also very layered. It's a sophisticated one. It's not that simple. It's not just a one-step conception, right? It's got extra elements to it. And the most important part is that it enables us to find and see the sense in what we otherwise would not. And that's important. We encounter so many things and we're unable to see the sense because we don't believe it does make sense, and therefore we just, well, it does make sense, and we find reasons why it doesn't, and that's the end of it. Now, what is our hot big topic from yesterday, particularly for Sher? What was Sher's theme of yesterday? Anomalies, right? So I had a most wonderfully, beautifully, magically anomalous day, right? You can read a post about it, fantastic post there in group, right? It's in featured, so it should be fairly up towards the top of the featured thing there. And what are anomalies? But that which is outside of our understanding. So when we use, okay, good, Jessica, good, yes. I noticed that lately people have been struggling a bit with Zoom on the phone. I don't know, maybe it's just the phones have poorer connectivity or whatever, but that has been happening. So sure, anomalies are by definition that which is outside of our comprehension, our understanding, our familiarity, our usualness, and they just anomalous. They don't really, we don't get it. We don't know what's going on there, right? But by saying that anomalies doesn't mean they don't make sense. They just don't currently make sense to us, right? So the magic of an anomaly is, at least in the Way of Impeccability, a whole philosophy, right? Because the end of Way of Impeccability, the last module is all about anomalies and understanding them and attunement and all this, right? Because anomalies go all together with attunement. So when we say we are insisting from a philosophical point of view to have capital R receptivity to anomalies, we're saying anomalies do make sense. I just got to figure out how. Right? And anomalies, when you start doing that, then it's profound. Look at all the anomalies that you had yesterday. You know, those lights in the give. You know what's anomalous about them too? You kind of got them the next day delivery. It's incredible. They came so quick. It's just like, wow, you already got them? Really? I couldn't believe it. So, and they came, of course, in the right day. And you know, these lights, these magical lights, seeing the light, you know, being awareness, coming into awareness. You had a profound, anomalous epiphany of something that you became aware of, and there was something else that you were not aware of, and your not awareness of it was anomalous also. So you see what I mean? Coming into light was awareness, and not having the light, right, was also profound. Usually when we say, well, you didn't see something, you didn't notice something, that's usually kind of negative. But in this case, it was actually a profound positive, because it was implicative of a deep healing, a deep growth, a deep shift, right? So exactly. Anomalies do make sense when we understand anomalies as being the language of the universe, the language of our subconscious, the language of our deep self, the language of our moreness self. to ourselves. That's it. You know what? I just used a term that I never used before that I remember. Well, maybe I did, but I don't really remember. But instead of saying higher self, to say moreness self. I don't care for higher self because it's too hierarchical. But moreness self, there's no hierarchy in moreness. There's no hierarchy in moreness. There's more and there's more. There's no hierarchy. It's just more, right? So my moreness self, it's the language of my moreness self, which you could say is the universe, if you want to, the all, doesn't matter, right? It's all connected. So my moreness self, anomalies are the language of my moreness self. Now, and I have to repeat that once again because Bina just came. As soon as Bina's audio connects, I do want Bina to hear this. Bina, I was just saying as she came on, and I'm repeating. Anomalies are the language of my moreness self. Yeah, make sense to you?
Yes.
And when it comes to anomalies, do we not apply capital R receptivity to them? Yeah, we insist they make sense. That's how we uncover the magic of the anomalies, by insisting they make sense. And look at the genius of this from your moreness self's point of view, or from the universe's point of view. By putting it in these mystery packages, it forces us to think it through, to figure out, to shift perspective, to look at it from multiple perspectives, to uncover, unravel, explore. And in that, we start to choose, we figure out, we raise our awareness, we enhance our awareness, we develop our awareness. So anomalies are directly awareness enhancing and developing mechanisms. That's why they're anomalies. That's why they are anomalies. Exactly. They are gifts from the universe. Capital G gifts. Yes, exactly, Jessica. I need to call you Elizabeth now. You all have magic in I think we're all one person just spread out into different configurations, you see. So it's really the same name in the end, you see. So I see the moreness of Jessica in Elizabeth, Elizabeth in Jessica, Norma in Bina, Bina in Norma, Show in Bina and Norma. It's like I see you all in all. Oh, and Ramsey too. I mean, to leave you out, Ramsey, but I'm just going with the girls. But so it's too fantastic how that similarity is there. You know, it's too wonderful. The moreness overlaps. We are all one organism like mushrooms. Yes, exactly. Yes, exactly. We are. We just sprout up here and sprout up there. Yes. Yes. Some like to thrive in the dark and others not so much. So yes. So we have some daylight mushrooms too. Yes. All right. That's just too fantastic. Anything to share, Bina? Anything to share on this before I start reading some story?
Yes, please do start reading this story. We are missing that. So yes.
Yes, boss. Yes, boss. Yes, boss. So we left off here where Shah has been prompted by the machine to pick anyone, and she's unable to. And this is the big point that we mentioned yesterday. She would say, "Hey, pick one." And then, why? And she starts thinking. Sometimes it's very simple. You just pick thinking. You don't always have to have these reasons. Sometimes all you've been asked to do, right? So the machine is really making her aware that you were a bit unnecessary there in your usage of energy. So now she's picked this, and then she says, right, and there's the sign that says begin. Another sign waved at her. So let's see the begin here. Shah gingerly pulled at one of the arms. Air whooshed delicately into the box. The air seemed infused with fine particles, but nothing happened to the screwdriver. She pulled on another lever. Water sprayed. She tried a few more levers and was rewarded with various types of air, water, and different types of what could only be a type or sort of organic material. She tried a prominent-looking button. Light flooded the box. The screwdriver changed. Its shape dissolved. Small, multiple tendril-like protrusions began to appear. The tendrils seemed to be floundering. A mechanical arm hastily dropped in a sign from above her, holding it upside down, which hurts. Adjust! Hurry up, sir! Hurry up, Shaw! Adjust! Shaw grabbed at some of the levers, which previously hadn't done anything. One of them produced a frame of sorts. The tendrils latched onto the frame. Other levers seemed to push them this way and that. but no guidance evident. Shah continued working the levers, getting into the spirit of it. Now she could see some effect of her efforts. Just as Shah started to feel like she was getting the hang of it, the machine shut the adjustment panel down, and whatever remained in the glass box was ejected. Ejected being a very polite way of describing the process. Right? This Infernal machine. Very rude machine, very rude. You can't go pooping out of wonderful creations. It's no good at all. Come on now, seriously. Really? Right. Anyway, so ejected being a very polite way of describing the process. Yeah. Right. There we go. Signs emanated vigorously from the machine. Unconnected, boring, unfocused. Even one which read, "What were you thinking?" They shook, quivered, waved at the machine indignant. One sign high up above the signs and machine, twirled by a long arm, read, "Come on!" Come on, sir. Shah felt a twinge of irritation. What's going on here? But she was determined, adventurous in her own peculiar way. Impeccability. Yes, the impeccability of not giving up, the impeccability of seeking to understand and insisting that it makes sense. Yes, because the entire setup, she can't insist on anything else other than it makes sense. Right? I mean, first of all, Biella brought her there. The machine is an anomaly in its own right. The machine is acting with purpose and deliberation. She chose to engage with the machine. Right? So Impeccable says, finish it, carry on, see it through to the end now. Otherwise, you'll never know. Right? So even though she's a bit irritated at this machine's like, nonsense, she still has to keep going, right? She's not put off by it, right? She's not put off by it. She can't. Okay, Jessica, that's fine. That's fine. I love that you came. I love that you're here, Jessica. I was just going to ask you to read the next slides, but if you have to go, dang it. Oh, well, then so be it. So be it.
I can read it really.
Okay.
Not really quick, but I can read it.
So read here from Shah, and then we'll do the next slide as well. Go ahead.
All right. Shar felt a twinge of irritation. What's going on here? But she was determined, adventurous in her own peculiar way, and loved when she was made to think. Certainly, a most thought-provoking machine. It also provoked a lot more. Shar put a lid on those feelings, resisting an urge to stick her tongue out. Infernal thing.
Oh, we're getting to the that's it. That's the perfect ending right there, because we're going to do the tasks and exercises now. So brilliant. So yes. So just to go back to that point, right? Because we are paying attention to impeccability and also to freedom, right? We don't want to forget our objective that we set ourselves here. So she's being impeccable here to persist, right, and keep on going. All right, she's getting put up a little bit in the machines thing, and that's not the best use of her energy, because as we discussed yesterday, right, if you're going to get pulled out of your bubble, your vibe, it changes your perception, right? You don't have as much of your resources available as you would otherwise have. But she put a lid on those feelings, right? So even though they're coming up, and it takes practice to learn to deal with feelings that come up, right? So this we discussed yesterday too, right, Sure? That just because they come up, it doesn't mean that we don't want to deal with them coming up, and over time that we can retrain ourselves so they don't come up automatically, and other replacement feelings come up in their place, as happened with your phone, right? The phone that keeps on giving you a hard time, and yesterday it just came up in you that, well, let me do this in a different way than the usual reaction, right? And you reacted with patience, and you just did it, and you didn't react and didn't have the automaticness come up of being annoyed and irritated, right? You had you had peace come up, you had patience come up, you had choice come up, and that's what I'm saying. So even though these feelings of irritation are coming up in Sure, she sets them aside, right? She doesn't get lost in them. She doesn't indulge in them, in other words, right? She put a lid on those feelings or sets them aside, resisting the urge to stick her tongue out. So good for you, Shah. Good for you. So very powerful, right?
Oh, but still, sometimes sticking your tongue out is just so much more satisfying.
I know. But she's resisting the urge because she's got a bit of sense, Shah, in her own way. In this particular instance, I'll bet you if you were to ask her, well, why didn't you stick your tongue out there? Like Jessica says, sometimes it's very satisfying. She says, well, if I had done that, likely knowing that machine, it would have given me a much harder time. Yeah. So it would have been a strategic option, even though it may have been satisfying in the moment. She would have paid a price from it from the machine. Yes. Does that make sense? The way the machine is, it would have really made it would have given her an extra hard time because of that, right? Because this machine is, even though it seems to be full of nonsense, it's actually a super thoughtful machine. And there's a method to its madness, a profound method. It's pressing you to be impeccable, right? This is the point of it, right? And it's not only pressing you to be impeccable, but it's pressing you to be creative, to jump outside your boundaries. So it's sort of keeping that monkey part, our internal bureaucrats, it's keeping it a bit occupied. And while she's sort of dealing with this, the irritation and the annoyance, that part of her brain that does its usual thinking is a bit distracted. So it's making space for the magic and the moreness to come, right? Because this is the point of the machine. It is about magic and moreness, right? And there's a particularness to it in this case, which is, creativity and how to resolve the issue of how to choose when you don't know, right? So this is a lot going on here. This is very sophisticated incident here. I mean, it's an anomalous incident, and this is how anomalies are. Very, very, very layered, very, very sophisticated. Lots of things coming up. We're going to see in a moment. Yeah. Exactly. Kicking the machine would have worked for self-satisfaction, however, not the best use of energy. But it does, we already know in the end, the machine says kick here, and there's this pattern panel of previous people who've kicked it, right? So the machine does give you in the end when it doesn't matter anymore. And now it's okay, we understand about energy release, right? So that's a different point. But at that point of time, not best use of energy, yes. But when it's all over and done, you've got this lingering thing. All right, let me get it out of my system in a benign way. And of course, when you've been asked to do it, now it's kind of more like fun than really anger and annoyance and moderation, right? So it's a different context in the end. There's a subtle difference to it, but a huge one, right? Bina, anything to comment?
Yeah. Yes.
Will you read the first question there, please? Okay. Comment. I heard what's the
I was just imagining that, okay, how she controlled herself, or not like, okay, oh, I'm just going to show you tongue and kick you and something like that. This is something, it's not because that it's unsophisticated, okay, not only because that, okay, it's not a good use of energy, but also when you see that machine is communicating in a way which is completely on an equal basis. This machine, the way machine was interacting, was like, okay, not I'm just here to accept orders. Okay, I'll be creative. Yeah. So this also inhibits, because she says that this is not going to work, even though I'm feeling I want to do this, but this is not going to work. So that maybe the understanding also was limiting her to not do that.
Exactly. And the communication, because you see, now we're looking at this and we're looking at discernment from the outside. Now we've already read the story, so we know how it ends. So we know this machine is being profound. We know this machine is being more. And it's capital C communication. Shah's not consciously aware of it just yet, but by implication, right? She's not putting it all together because she's a bit distracted and stuff is hurrying up and the machine is doing this on purpose to kind of press her a little bit, right? So that she doesn't start going into that normal mode. And but there is a part of her that's realizing that this machine is actually capital C communicating.
Yes.
So she goes with it. So she goes with it, right? Quite admirably so. Like, I mean, the little tiny bits of irritation here and there, and she's doing it all as appropriate within the context of herself. She's using herself to maximum effect here, right? So everything is just working out just right. So this is really great to see, right? That she's going with the machine and going and responding to its communications as appropriate, right? So she's allowing herself to be manipulated by the machine.
Yes.
Right? I mean, it's not a true manipulation because it's an ethical manipulation. We could say guidance. But, you
Yes.
know, guidance and manipulation sometimes are not all that different. In this case, the machine is manipulating, but in a good way. So it's a guidance, yes. But I just want to make clear that when we start to unhook from seeing manipulation as always negative, we can see sometimes that in this case, this is ethical manipulation and it comes into the next chapter, right? So we're starting to see a touch of this. It's a very profound understanding of the new nobility. It's a very big deal. So the next couple of chapters, actually, it's a theme that runs through this, right? To understand moreness, how the universe works, how things like the machine, which is obviously this representation of the universe here, right? And we said that somewhere we said with that universal supercomputer, oh, it was in the quote about resolving doubt, right? The universal supercomputer, the machine supercomputer, same thing, yeah? So, so will you read that first question? Yeah, I have no idea what this question is about, the meaning to it. We'll have to figure it out.
Okay. Where might the clues lead, like the garden and what it is, etc., considering the theme Biella has set up?
Where might the clues lead, like the garden and what it is, etc., considering the theme Biella has set up? So now the theme that Biella has set up is this theme about choice. Yes, choosing without having specific guidance to choose from, right?
Yes. I'll be right back, Sil. So just
Okay.
give
Okay.
5 minutes. Please continue. I'll be back.
Okay. So that's the theme that Biella set up, right? About how to choose when we don't have criteria to choose with. Yes. And that's the same thing with the machine. It said any, pick any. And then Shah was trying to make these things and this, but we're coming to this point, right? So we're saying, like, where might the clues lead? It's a garden of inspiration. So the clue already is in the name of the garden. That sure wasn't clicking at first, right? So Biella is setting up that when it comes to inspiration, that we might not always be able to inspire ourselves. However, if we pay attention, we get inspired from elsewhere. So the machine in its own peculiar way is all that prodding. It's really prodding and pushing Shah. It's inspiring in a very peculiar way, right? And that peculiar way, it's an anomalous inspiration, and it's giving you a clue right there that when we say, when we start to link inspiration to anomalies, see? In other words, if we have a deadlock and we don't know where to go, start to look around for inspiration. Most profound inspiration we can ever get. Sure. Yes, sure. We'll tell you this. Sure just had a whole day of this profound inspiration yesterday. A whole day of anomalies, a magical day of anomalies. Yeah. Now they're always there. Sometimes a little more than others though. Right. But was it not inspiring? Inspiring you to think this, inspiring you to think that. Inspiration isn't always just, I've got a painting or a poem. Inspiration is new understandings, new awarenesses. I mean, that's what creativity is. It's new understandings, new awarenesses, new ideas. It's all inspiration, right? So a new understanding is just as much a product of inspiration as a new painting or a new poem or a new song or whatever. Yeah. So it's just that we happen to associate inspiration with art. But when we associate inspiration with philosophy, with feeling, with understanding, oh boy, does this thing just go crazy. Go crazy. Ramzi Najjar says, we are all anomalies in a certain way or another. Yes, Ramzi, that's a very nice way of saying we're all weirdos, but yes, absolutely. Just having a bit of fun with it. But in essence, it's true. It's true. I mean, I'm just teasing a little bit, but true. Yes, we are all anomalies in one way or another. Yes. Number two, mushrooms of us are normal compared to each other. Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. The mushrooms are saying, hey, we aren't weird. We aren't weird. Look at the. No, right, exactly. It's all relative perspective, in other words. Exactly. Each one diverges from what is normal in one way or another. Exactly. In a way or another. Yes. Moreness for someone can be less moreness to someone else. Exactly. And you know what, Ramsey? For me, moreness of one and the moreness of other, they're different, but I don't grade them. To me, I can't see any 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 size difference in moreness. Just difference. Your moreness, how you connecting your particular moreness, it's part of moreness. Moreness is infinite. So it's just different. It's just different, right? I really make that effort to say it's not like morenesses are bigger and larger. Somebody may be connecting to more of their moreness than somebody else is connecting to their moreness, but that doesn't make their moreness more than the moreness of the other one. It just makes their connectivity to the moreness a bit more, but it doesn't make the moreness itself more. Does it make sense, Ramsey? I'm just going into the detail of the expression there. I realize you're typing and likely other stuff is going on. But yeah, inspiration is new understanding. Exactly. At least it's a path to be very precise, since I'm going on precise language here, right? Like I was just going into the detail there of Ramses' expression, same way, sure. Inspiration is new understanding. Yes, it leads to new understanding. It isn't in itself, it's the path. It puts you on the path to new inspiration. It's what you do with that inspiration that's the issue. Yes, like in Shah's case here now, she has to do something with it. She has to do something with it. Like you yesterday, you got inspired by the anomalies yesterday, but you did a ton of stuff that led to understanding, did you not? Yes, yeah, exactly. The intent is the key. It depends on how much intent there is in one to reach moreness and take it to the extreme. Exactly, 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 Ramsey. And I want to make a very profound point, because I make every possible effort that I can to unhook from the superiority paradigm and shift things into this new paradigm, right? And this new paradigm of Nobelia-Living and all this, right? I'm not saying it's the only other alternative paradigm. It happens to be one that we are immersed in to illustrate that other paradigms are possible and feasible, especially not just possible but also feasible, right? So in this alternative paradigm, there's this deep effort to avoid hierarchy, and that's a very, very powerful thing. Now, in the new on Nobelia, the whole new nobility culture is a culture that is built around the pursuit of moreness and the connectivity to moreness, and really making every effort to connect to as much moreness as possible, right? Both individual and in general, right? Um, so this is a massive, massive, massive big deal, and in this though, yes, one thing that the new nobility will emphasize over and over again. Now, in the story, the new nobility come. It started off with this noble ideal, but in the story that the whole planet is later it comes much later, or maybe even in the side things, but the entire planet is owned by the new nobility corporation, and all of the new nobles are employees of the new nobility corporation. They've got noble, the name noble is trademark. Anyway, it's a long story. So basically it's all relative to this really benign, really big corporation, really profound corporation, right? And one of the things, the reason I bring in the corporation in is because of this concept that I want to share, that is a massive important concept, particularly when it comes to the pursuit of and the intent of how much moreness we want to reach. And that is this concept of the effort reward circle. So my long story about the new nobility corporation is to say, because the new nobility corporation, as one of their public service activities, run ads which make it clear that effort and reward is a deeply, deeply, intimately personal choice which nobody can say is right or wrong. Impossible. In other words, how much I decide, how much effort is worth the reward. And nobody can tell me that's right or wrong. No one. And this now I'm relating it back to moreness. So yes, the new nobility, their culture is premised, is built around pursuing as much possible moreness as they can. This is their intent. But that doesn't mean that they think everyone should do this. No, they will tell you right out, say, look, this is not a life for everybody. If you don't have this passion, this desire, then this is absolutely not for you. Yeah. And it's not because it's better or worse. It's just simply because this is not going to work for you. Not going to have fun. If you prefer to really put it into, I don't know, sports or pleasure or, dancing fun, whatever, it doesn't matter. Whatever you think is worth your time and effort, only you can decide. If you want to lie around doing nothing all day, nobody can say that's wrong. If that effort is worth the reward for you, that's fine, right? So effort reward is purely personal, and I really want to make this clear, simply because this story is about a society that really is the deep intent to uncover as much moreness and reach as much moreness as possible. They don't for one instance say you should do this. No. No. They don't even think that anyone should do it. You do it because you want to, because you choose to, because the effort is worth the reward. And they will tell you there's tons of effort. Some people think we're crazy, and they may be right. There's tons and tons of effort involved. It takes a lot of effort to pursue moreness. Yes, tons of it, right? I mean, they work very hard at what they do, but for them, it's worth the reward. For them, for the particular individuals who comprise it. That's why Nobelia is a voluntary society. It's a whole planet, but you're only there because you choose to be there. If the new nobles do have children, which they do sometimes, it's not a big thing, but they do have it. The children are brought up elsewhere, not on Nobelia. Yeah. So very important, right? It's a voluntary society. It's only can be, right? Because it's your choice. Effort reward, your choice, right? Nobody can tell you you must be this way, you must do that. Does that make sense, Ramsey? That it has to be a choice issue, yes? It cannot be prescribed, in other words. It can only be a choice, right? This how much the intent there is to want to reach moreness and take it to the extreme. Now, for those who pursue moreness, they can't imagine doing anything else. It doesn't make sense to them that you would not want to do this, but they do understand. Even though personally it doesn't make sense to them, they can understand it doesn't make sense to do it to others, right? Yeah. Yeah. So very powerful, very powerful. All right, so all these messages coming up here. Go away with your messages. I want to read what, to some degree with Plato's Republic, a little bit, yes. But there's more to it, and it gets a bit complicated in there. So, that's the problem with old stuff. That's really, really old. The world has moved on. Many conceptions are a bit more sophisticated. So yes, it's a good starting point, but it's a little convoluted, and unfortunately it didn't get finished and get to really be resolved, actually. So yeah, here comes my delivery. So all right, why I don't know why these things just keep popping like that, and I can't read what's being said there. But yeah, so there's lots of fun there to be in that discussion if we look at this. But this is a lot different to Plato's Republic. I mean, yes, Plato's Republic was also set up as a utopian society, but many profound differences exist here. So it's fun though. It's fun though to consider them, and there are many other. Well, not that many. Plato's Republic 2, is that? Oh no, something else came up there. So yeah, utopian societies are fun to consider. You would think there would be more stories, more books on it, but they're actually remarkably few. Dystopian societies, tons of it. I mean, this is like one of the most popular genres right now, dystopian science fiction, but not utopian. They're actually very rare. It's quite amazing. Quite amazing. New Plato's Republic 2. Is that supposed to be 2? Yeah. I don't really want Nobelia to be connected to Plato's Republic, but I appreciate the sentiment, though. I mean, it's Nobelia. It's its own thing. It's not like anything else. It's not connected to anything else. And yes, I'm familiar with Plato's Republic, but I couldn't really describe you. I read the books long ago, but I read all of Plato. I loved Plato when he came up. Plato is quite remarkable as an anomaly in literature. The Platonic dialogues. There's nothing else like it anywhere else. At least not in classics. I would assume it's got to be somewhere, but not in the classics. Once upon a time, Ramsey, in the madness of youth, I set about reading all the classics in chronological order. And that was before the days of internet. Just making that list was a task that took me more than a year. Right? Because you had to literally go and research it in catalogs and pamphlets, and it was just a big deal. Asking people and all this. So it was quite a job to put the list together. Then I wanted to buy the books because I wanted them to be my own books because I could underline in them and all that. I didn't have much money then. Money was at a big premium. I'm a poor student and all this. So it took me a couple of years to. Thank you, Amazon. Thank you. You too, man. You too. Sorry for the shouting, but they won't hear me otherwise. Anyway, so then I put all the books together and then I read them in chronological order, which gave me an understanding of how thought patterns developed and how things came from what was before and how the understanding of the world at large, at least in that section of the world that was paying attention to such things. And I read all philosophy, religion, economics, whatever was a classic work, right? It was a great book, literature, the whole works, everything, right? So any of those. And so you got to see how this progression of thought and development was quite a profound thing. And that's why I can say, in all of that, there's the new Plato's Republic, which is sort of a utopian book. It's got other things, but yeah, in essence it is. And then Thomas More's book called Utopia, from where the word actually comes, right? But other than that, there are the only two in all of those books that really had this focus. It was quite incredible. It was really amazing to me. Yeah, later you've got, like Brave New World, Thomas Huxley, in contrast to the dystopian one of 1984. But still, rare, very rare, very rare. So it didn't inspire me to do this. What inspired me to write this was the development of my own really detailed, sophisticated, complex, coherent philosophy. I looked to have a philosophy that was complete in itself. And I said, well, instead of writing it out as a philosophy, I want to put it into practice, because application is core to the whole philosophy. Put it into practice and demonstrate it via application. So we see in this chapter here, we see all those concepts in the Dictionary of Power, right? We see capital R receptivity, obviously, and of course we're seeing impeccability, but we're seeing particularly perspective shifting and this point of attunement and anomalies and awareness. This is very, very key in this particular chapter. So a lot going on here. So I think we sort of answered this question already. The next one here to go to this. What are your impressions and thoughts about the machine so far? Right now, since we read the whole thing and then came back to it, this would be, that, hey, this machine is a bit rude. This is a kind of an insolent, machine. It's got all sorts of attitudes going on, right? We could call it a bit of a BMN machine, but that's why the question is a leading question too. And if you listen so far, well, that implies that my impression is going to change. So that gives you a bit of a hint there, right? The instant machine of beauty creation. What else could be such? What a question! What a question! The instant machine of beauty creation. What else could be an instant machine of beauty creation?
The instant machine of abstract creation.
I mean, what else could be an instant machine of beauty creation? Not other kinds of machines, but what else could also be? Right? That machine was one machine of an instant machine of beauty creation. But what else can be an instant machine of beauty creation?
I'm not getting your question. So
your brain, your spirit, your soul,
okay.
you, anomalies, the universe, the world, moreness, right? Yeah, yeah. But I liked your idea, the instant machine of. So you took the question in a different way. So
Yes.
what variations of what other types of similar machines might there be? Creation machines, the instant machine of abstract creation. There you go, anomaly. What else? The instant machine of conception creation, words, language. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, concepts. Yeah. So very powerful, very nice idea. Very nice idea. Yeah. Is Shah perhaps missing an implication implied by Biella's demeanor in regard to the machine? An implication which could have been significant had she thought of it at the time. This is interesting to me, how my things that come up while I was doing the reading, right, that we discussed yesterday, right, that we said that if Shaw had been paying a bit more attention, she would have taken much more from Biella's demeanor, and she would have figured things out, and she would have had a whole different experience, right? So, but it's interesting to me how it came up then, and it come up in the question. You see, so it's very powerful. So we did answer that. So yes, absolutely, right. We went over this in detail. Share all your thoughts on the machine and the processes of input. That all.
It's a big question.
Yeah.
But the input thing, this thing is the process of input. It's a bit of tricky thing, because first it was like, okay, pick anything, okay, and then just do that. And then it's was kind of like a judgment of that, okay, what you have picked, okay. So it's giving this full freedom. Also that that how much we have choices in life in general, even when we don't acknowledge that in every situation. So sometimes the abundance of choices makes us a bit careless.
Exactly.
Put everything, like pick anything which doesn't have any significance or meaning for us, like, oh yes, okay, I can choose it later. So this process of input, when especially when it was guided as like, okay, oh, pick anything, it was a pressure that, okay, just pick anything. It sounds like a very liberating thing, but actually it is not. And we all experience that. We don't have a specific idea of something, even if we are just going for some personal shopping, like, okay, if I want to have a top or something, and I just go there, and then endless choices.
Exactly.
I can pick anything, but it's still it will puzzle anyone for a bit. So that process was exactly like the life in general for me. Like, okay, how the universe gave you endless opportunities to pick and choose, and sometimes we get overwhelmed by that. Some people are, and of course, until they start working on themselves. So that was my feeling about this the input process.
Wonderful.
And on the machine, again, I so far I'm just kind of like using the machine as a metaphor of habitual beings, like, okay, people, including us, done by the habits, like, okay, we all are machine in this regard. So I'm just considering machine as a common being, including myself.
So would you say that this machine and the theme and what Biella has set up, it's about indecision and how we deal with indecision?
It's like, okay, yeah, there are two most prominent things, exactly. The first thing is trusting that, okay, yes, trust in the process, and also trust in yourself. And trust on other people's intent. Like Biella was not very clear about her whole gestures and everything, but trusting that it will make sense. So that is very important. And the second thing is about Actually exposing you for
exposing you for.
yes, okay, so exposing you on the plethora of choices. Exactly,
Yes,
life is.
exactly. So we get to indecision or poor decision making in two ways, and this is a very, very sophisticated point that is being made here. Ramsey, I'm not ignoring you. I'm going to come to your comments in a second there, right? But we can deal with indecision one by not thinking. That's the typical way, right? So we get to a decision and we're too lazy to figure out. We're lazy to think it through. We don't want to be bothered to perspective shift. We're just like, whatever, right? And we make poor decisions as a result. But there's another way that we can deal with indecision. And this is the nuance in the story here, is that we can do too much again. Like, sure, what do I need to do? What do I have to do? Right? That's just insecurity. You said pick anyone, right? So it's a very subtle, very, very subtle point that we are sometimes in this habit of doing, and I have to do this, I have to do this, and we a little bit put pressure on ourselves to make appropriate efforts, but we don't realize that sometimes the appropriate effort is not to make effort. Yes. The appropriate behavior is just to do anyone, just do it. That's it. You don't have to be thinking, no reason required, no logic. It's just pick anyone. So this is very, very powerful. So overthinking, yes. Now I have a bit of a beef with overthinking. I don't think it's overthinking. I think it's inefficient thinking, because if you think it through to the end and you come to a resolution, well, what else is there to do? You can't really go past that point. You've done it, it's done, it's finished, right? So what mostly we think of as overthinking is actually inefficient thinking. It's looping, it's looping, it's looping. You're thinking the same thing and not coming to any resolution. And the reason for that is because we don't want to face and deal with an awesome truth most of the time, right? So we just go over the thoughts, and I don't want to go any further. I don't want to go any further, right? It's like I need to go past the border into the wilderness, but the wilderness is very scary and the monsters are there. So I'm like, I just keep on walking in circles at the border there, right? Not wanting to go where I know I need to go, right? So just to pay a bit more attention to it. Very, very important point here. Sorry, 1 second. My music is playing on the phone and it's playing very loudly too. It's like, wow, really? How did you get to do that? I'll put the thing off and it's still playing. All right, there we go.
Says that overthinking is inefficient. Yes,
exactly.
Exactly.
Exactly. I just don't care for the word over, like going past
Yeah.
at some point, like it's too much thinking, and that's the problem. Sorry, Sabina, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but that's the point that's usually implied with overthinking. You're thinking too much. No, you're thinking inefficiently. There's no such thing as thinking too much. If it's not resolved, you keep going until you resolve it. Then you can say this. But then where do you go? You can't really think too much. It's not really possible. You can think inefficiently and ineffectively, yes, but you can't really think too much, or not easily. Sorry, say what you're going to say, Bina. I cut you off.
I was just saying that this overthinking, mostly we just assume that, okay, it is something. I'm just keep thinking I'm just helpless in this thing. Mostly, I'm not saying 100%, but mostly what happens is that we insist on, we don't say that, but we insist on a particular specific custom-made result. Why we keep insisting on. Otherwise, the resolution or the situation can be resolved quite easily. But when it's on, I'm not saying it like it is always in a negative way. Sometimes situations are like that, where you have to have a specific in your own specific way result, but not necessarily all the time. But in overthinking, is actually keep insisting on that whatever the situation or the person or whatever is projecting is something not acceptable for me, and I will keep thinking till I will get a way, my way. That's it.
Exactly. So in other words, it's all about that ego superiority paradigm. My way must, We get back to that. Now, Ramsey makes a wonderful point here. Well, I believe it is not the utopian republic. I assume you're referring to Plato's republic not being necessarily a utopian republic, right? At least I assume so, right? I'm not sure. But the next point is important. But politics, I believe, diverges us from such republic nobility, yes, or from something like Nobelia, correct? And when why I'm excited about your point here is because if I simply, before even going on to your next comment there, we do elaborate on this, right? For me, when I saw that, said, if you think about politics and Nobelia, especially the more we get to understand the societies, maybe a bit early now still, but it's just not possible. Why? Because you think things through to the end. And when you think things through to the end and there's understanding, politics kind of goes away. Right? I mean, typically politics is only really can happen in the context of the superiority paradigm, because it's all about power and hierarchy and dominance and me saying, it should be this way. My opinion is better than your opinion. If I don't have this desire to say my opinion is better, then I go with what makes sense inherently. And this is an objective calculation that can be figured out. It just takes time and patience and lots of communication practice and skill and a willingness to do so. But in the end of the day, there's very little things that really are deeply, questionable. They can all be resolved in some way or another, right? And that just takes the intent to do so. When you have a society that's focused on resolution, right, which is capital R, resolution is one of those terms in the new nobility's core conception values, right? It's like capital R receptivity, capital R resolution. They insist on coming to resolution. That's usually the term in their dictionaries of power. Coming to resolution. They insist on it. They cannot rest until they've come to resolution. They cannot. It's just not possible. It's unresolved. They keep going until it's resolved. This might take a long time. Doesn't matter. Take a lot of effort. Doesn't matter. They keep insisting. Politics that infiltrates religion, commerce, corporation, societal life, etc. Politics in our world created a society far away from oneness. Exactly, Ramsey. Beautiful sentiment. Be a machine like a wolf or be eaten by wolves. Exactly. See, that's the only two options in the superiority paradigm. You either get eaten or you eat. But that's in Nobelia, that doesn't exist. That doesn't exist. They're all playing together. Everything is played. Spirituality, philosophy, understanding, awareness, discernment, application, all play. The entire books that we're writing about. We aren't actually going to be paying much attention to typical playthings, like when they do sports activities, drama, whatever, a little bit here and there. But to them, play is the pursuit of moreness, is the ultimate game to them, the ultimate play. And in this play, there's no competition. It's all collaboration. It's collaboration, right? Collaboration, not competition. Collaboration, not even cooperation. Yes, there's cooperation, but it's collaborative cooperation. It's collaboration, which is a particular special thing all in its own. It builds on each other. So this is an entirely different paradigm that I keep emphasizing, right? This paradigm. So that's what you're saying when we understand this, that this wolf and being being eaten, that superiority paradigm. But when you say, wait a second, let's just set that aside. Let's not have any of that. Let's do something else instead. Changes everything, right? So yeah, within the paradigm, you're going to have politics. And you're going to have it influencing religion because you want to influence as much as possible. That's like the abstract way of eating, is to have your influence, to have dominance, right? When you got influence, you can dominate. You can say, do this, do that. You're not going to eat in a physical sense, but you're eating psychologically, right? The dominance, you get to use it, because when you're eating something, you're getting use out of it, right? So you can feed on things. When you're more higher up, you've got control, you've got influence. It's all part of that same logic, right? It's a really sad logic, but yeah, very cool point there. Overthinking is inefficient. Yes, absolutely. It's this modern world disease, being bombarded with information from all sides. Yeah. Well, the disease is not so much the bombardment of information as to the inability to deal with it, right? And that's part of what the story is about. Sometimes you don't need to be paying attention and dealing with it. So I don't know if this is necessarily a modern disease, Ramsey, because you took. I've seen this many times in stories, old and new, where somebody who grew up in a city, even in ancient times there were cities, right? Like they grew up in Rome and suddenly they go out into the country and they go out into a jungle, into the forest, and they're completely overwhelmed. They're overwhelmed by nature. Happens to people all the time because they get bombarded with information from all sides. So this not necessarily a modern disease. We just are a little bit more aware of it now with the internet and all this. But when you really think, are you truly bombarded, or are you opening yourself to that? These are two different things, right? Because bombarded implies, well, when bombs are dropping on my head, there's nothing I can do about it. But when it comes to the information coming at me, if there's tons I can do about it. I can turn off my phone, I can turn off my TV, I can turn off my computer, right? I cannot read the newspapers. I don't have to be bombarded. It's my choice to be connected to that, right? So it's not, bombardment implies there's no choice involved. So I think that we do have the choice. We just don't choose to exercise it. So yeah, people open themselves up and then they get it's a little bit more than they bargained for. But still, that simply means they need to filter more effectively. Yeah. So very interesting point there. Very interesting point there. When we look at it, a little bit of discernment, right? I mean, yes, it is true in a way what you say, Ramsey, but I do feel that we have more control over it. But it's not a new thing. People have been overwhelmed and opted out of societies for as long as we know. Monasteries, people opting out of society because they get overwhelmed by society. They can't deal with it, right? So overthinking is kind of like overwhelm. I prefer the term overwhelm because you're really just overwhelmed with thoughts that you don't want to deal with. They're just too much for you. So, but that's why we do things like Way-of-Impeccability, to learn to deal with all that, to develop effective, efficient ways of thinking, ways of processing, ways of understanding, ways of comprehending, and particularly ways of conceiving. When we can conceive, we simplify. That's what's lacking in the world. That's why we're overwhelmed. That's why we feel bombarded when actually we're not necessarily being bombarded, technically, but we feel so. Why? Because we don't know how to filter and we don't know how to abstract. We don't know how to group things and simplify. But that's why the alternative name for Way of Impeccability is the language of conceptuality. When we develop this particular language, this language of conceptuality, and we understand how to conceptualize and therefore enable to package things into these abstract conceptions, we're packaging it, we're simplifying entire look at impeccability, right? And we didn't even go into all of its nuance and detail, but it's a very powerful concept which we've got all these understandings that were individual little things running around, and we put them all together and say, here we go. Now I've got one thing that I need to know and understand, but that one thing is connected to tons of things that falls into its sphere, right? And thereby I simplify the world, right? So we have so much detail, but we don't know how to conceptualize, so we just are mired in this massive detail. If your computer did not conceptualize, it would not be able to work. You would have no hard drive. You would have a mass of ones and zeros, and you wouldn't be able to get anything out of it. And because, well, whenever it takes that packaging information, it labels it, and it's the labeling that allows you to extract it. The file name, for instance, yes, that's a label. So it's very powerful. All of this stuff, right? It all gets put into categories, labeling, abstract conceptions, ideas, all the same thing. It's sorting information, categorizing, sorting information. But we don't do this with our thinking, with our ideas, our beliefs, our philosophies, our understandings. This is conceptuality, right? This is terms like capital R receptivity, capital R responsibility, coming to capital R resolution, right? Just to name 3 R's there, since we seem to be on an R theme today, right? Right, Ramsey? R for Ramsey. So when we have this, we say, oh, we are simplifying the world, simplifying, right? So we don't get overwhelmed. Conceive is associated with communication for me. Oh, that's very interesting connection there, sir. If I can communicate clearly and understand what is being shared with me, that makes a difference. That makes a difference. The ability, verbal and courage to ask questions is important. Yes. So, to conceive is to create, but also it is to create according to a particular idea or an intent. That's where conception comes from, right? So when you really get into the detail there, you're getting a very, very nuanced usage of conception in the way I'm using conceptionality, as in the language of conceptionality. So I define, I create, I draw a boundary, a circle. I draw a collection, I create the collection, and in that collection, I also define what it's doing. I connect and I create. Yes, so conceptionality is both definition and implementation, application, and creation. Yes, very profound thing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Shaw had assumed the machine was just a machine. Exactly. She assumed so. She wasn't communicating. Exactly. At least it was her initial impression. It was just a machine. And then as she goes along a little bit further, well, at the very end, at least afterwards, when they're in the garden of reflection, then it really starts to come through to her that, she had that idea something is going on here, but she didn't have time to explore it fully, or the awareness or the speed of awareness to say, wow, right, to make that immediate conclusion. Oh, something's definitely going on here, right? And so she didn't quite get there yet. But yes, that's very powerful, right? Very powerful. We're not communicating with herself. Yes, sure. Not communicating with herself. Unconsciously overwhelmed. Yes, exactly. Even at a time when I cut all new social media, TV news from my life, Google cookies kept putting information in front of me. I do not need. Oh, wow, interesting. But the thing is that people being overwhelmed, like I said back in the day, when you look at people who this whole concept of monasteries, and it's not only a religious thing, communities that separate themselves out, people going out into the wilderness to be alone, they become overwhelmed by their own thoughts because they don't resolve them. And if you don't resolve them, that's why I keep saying this over and over and over again. One of the absolute core tools of Way of Impeccability, of the new nobility, of all of this stuff, thinking things through to the end. Why to the end? Because then you come to resolution. If you don't resolve it, it stays there in your mind. And then another one comes and you've got two unresolved things, and another one, 3, 4, 10, 18, and it just keeps compounding. And that's where we get overwhelmed. So people opt out of society in order to deal with all those unresolved things in themselves, right? Unresolved beliefs, unresolved ideas, unresolved intents. What am I doing with my life? Where am I going? Right? The moment we start thinking, we get this explosion of these questions. And if you don't resolve them, they stay there because they're important questions. You have to resolve them at some point. You can't just leave them. It's just how we are. Yeah, 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 yeah. It's just very powerful, very, very powerful, very, very powerful stuff, right? So when we make this effort, and this is what we're doing with capital R readings, Ramsey, it's the whole point is that when I read, all these things pop up in my mind, right? I'm like, yeah, what is this? I think it's, but well, at least when I used to read and when I was doing, and still when I read, I never continued to read when something popped up that was unresolved for me. I stopped, I put the book down and I thought about it and I thought it through to the end. And then only once I had resolved, then I continue reading. It changed my life. That one simple action changed my whole life because now I could build on something that was solid. If I don't resolve it, really fully resolve it, right? Think it through all the way to the end. I'm speculating, I'm guessing. And that's maybe, that's possibility. How do you build a structure on a bunch of maybes? Very difficult, right? It's a very flimsy structure because it might be 90% true. But if I have 10, if I have 10 items that are 90% true, one of them is going to fail on average, right? Because that one is going to be the 10% one that's not true. It's 1 out of 10. So that one is going to collapse the whole structure. Yes, the other ones are rigid, but that's the broken one. That's the one that doesn't work. And then there goes my whole structure. Yeah. See? Or okay, you might not have a full collapse, you may only have a partial collapse, but you see my point though, right? If we build on maybes, you end up with a very, very half collapsed, you get a mess, in other words, right? So we do need to finish our thinking, because otherwise, and things build on one on other, especially when you're building a skyscraper. Yeah. It may be the ground floor, it may be only the 10th floor, the 20th story, but still, if one of them collapses, there goes your whole building. Yeah. So, yeah, unconsciously, yeah, this is a very, very powerful point, this point of resolution, right? It's very, very, very important to resolve things inside yourself, because if you don't, they're going to keep going at you and eating at you and bothering you and coming up, even though if it might not be stressful, it might be a positive idea, doesn't matter. Our brains seek resolution, and it's like your computer. If you've got something that's unresolved, it will just keep coming up. It will keep looping, and it will use resources on your computer until it is resolved. It's just how things are. It's very powerful, very, very powerful. Bina, any thoughts? Will you read a bit, please, Bina? Where'd you go?
But read what? Now it is complete now?
No. We still halfway through the story.
Okay.
We haven't even come to the main start of it. Yeah. We literally halfway, actually. It's 60 pages. We're on page 30.
Okay. No, I was just asking about today. Okay. What am I missing? Shah thought earnestly. Take a moment, Shah told herself, remembering one of the sayings she'd learned from the new nobility. When faced with overwhelming odds, retreat a moment and reassess. Give the solution an opportunity to present itself. I want to read this again.
As power pause, right? That's the conception. That's the on our dictionary of power, that conceptuality we were talking about, to take all that she did there, that deeper understanding, the strategy of it, the sophistication of it, and the application, all of it goes under power pause. Yeah, isn't that what that is? Read again, yes. Please. Read again.
What am I missing? Shah thought earnestly. Take a moment, she told herself, remembering one of the sayings she'd learned from the new nobility. When faced with overwhelming odds, retreat a moment and reassess. Give the solution an opportunity to present itself. She took a literal step back from the machine. On cue, the science
one moment. I want to go over that strategy, right? Because there's a nuance there. There's a nuance, right? In what we were saying in resolution, thinking things through to the end, figuring it out. Yes. And now you say, yeah, but when faced with overwhelming odds, what do we do when we are unable to figure it out? Yes. In other words, like in this case, right? Okay, overwhelming odds is one way of saying it, but that's the saying in general, right? But saying when we can't figure it out, what do we do then? Then you take a step back, and it says retreat for a moment and reassess. But here comes the kicker. Give the solution an opportunity, present it, create an environment, give the solution an opportunity to present itself. Give the solution an opportunity to present itself. Yeah, not me figuring out the solution, but I'm making space for the solution to appear, to come. It's a very sophisticated point, no? You might say, yeah, but how can solutions just come? Aren't I the one who's got to figure it out? All right, maybe somebody else can figure it out, but then that's like saying, but you're just saying, oh, no, but solutions can just happen of their own accord. Yes, they can. Right? In other words, when we look at it this way, solutions can come in many different ways. Our brains can work without us consciously working them. We've got to create that space for that to happen. Yes. And this is a very profound thing. And also, it didn't just say from us, didn't just say make space within yourself for solutions to appear, but it's a very generalized overall statement, because it's not only that solutions can come from our brains, they can come from the world, the universe, from everything. Yes. So when we understand this, and we make space for those solutions to appear, we are unhooking from the belief that it's us and only us that can come up with a solution. Now, of course, our impeccability says I'm going to make every effort to come up with a solution myself, because when I'm going by this understanding of solutions from elsewhere, that's not a guarantee. It's a bit of a hit and a miss. Whereas for myself, this is something that I'm in charge of, right? I'm not in charge of the solutions when they come from outside myself. So if I can, of course, do it myself, I'd rather choose to do that, because I'm reducing the chances of the unforeseen to a minimum. Yes, that's my impeccability. Don't take chances. Yeah. So this is a very profound thing. Yes, and talking about impeccability, right? Sure. To understand our impeccability, it's minimizing risk.
Yes.
Yeah. One of the things of impeccability, one of the, and there in this thing, taking it back, says, well, when I do it myself, I'm minimizing the risk, because if I have to sort of, I can't rely on it coming from outside of myself. It typically does, it can, but it may or may not. It's not a guarantee. Yeah. So, but if I don't make space for the solution to come from outside, if I'm only relying on myself for solutions, I'm increasing the risk of me not finding the solution, or finding a partial solution, and not seeing the bigger picture solution, right? Or not finding it and then just being stuck. So this is to say, to find solution is both an internal and an external activity. Yes. But typically, we're going to want to rely on ourselves as much as possible, but also we want to be open to things from outside, right? As an additional tool. Yeah. Make sense?
Yes. Yes.
It's a powerfully sophisticated point. That's why it stopped you. A wonderful point. Right, Bina?
Yes.
Big deal. Big deal. Very big deal. Very sophisticated. Very big deal. Very big deal. Very big deal. What does Ramsey say there, please? The last two comments from Ramsey.
Retreat and revisit your strategy and have a strong comeback.
Exactly. Exactly. And the key is, right, Ramsey, when you say revisit, is to take that word revisit and broaden it. Yes. Mostly when we say revisit, this sort of implies that we are doing the rethinking, the recalculating, the re-strategizing. But we can revisit via being open. Yes. In other words, we can have amendments and adjustments to our strategy come externally. Yes.
Yes.
Sher will tell you this is exactly what happened to her yesterday. Right, Sher? You had inputs that were external that made a difference to your strategy. Yeah, your overall strategy of life and how to deal with things and all of this. Yes, they came externally, and it's a profound thing, is it not? It's a really big deal. It's a very, very big deal. So it's very cool, very cool stuff.
Second comment is sometimes the best solutions come when we go silent mode and reduce your thinking and listening to the universe.
Exactly. So as much as we like to think, we don't want to be reliant only on thinking. And Bina started her day today in our conversation earlier when she came on with a profound sharing about opposites. Yes. And how opposites so influence our thinking, and not always in a positive way. For instance, we say, well, when I'm thinking, and then we go, the opposite is to not think at all and just to be silent. It's a combination. We want to utilize them both. They're all parts of the spectrum. Simply because one is doing something, and now doesn't mean that, and it stops working, doesn't mean now it's the opposite is the only thing that's good and useful and valuable. Right? So when we start to understand that we don't want to just go from one extreme to the other, and have this ping-ponging between opposites, then we can start to combine them and collaborate the different various options, right? And we get magic, yeah? We get moreness. So very, very powerful points that yes, a part of our thinking, in other words, capital T thinking, which is, little thinking, is just us doing it. But capital T thinking is sometimes to be silent and open and wait and listen. This is capital T. It's part of capital T thinking, not the only part, but part of it. So in capital T thinking, we figure out, and then we retreat and we let it come. Right? It's all thinking, just in a different way. Right? Yeah. It's a different understanding of thinking. Very powerful, very powerful. Very cool, Ramsey. Very cool, very cool. Very wonderful point. Very wonderful point. I love it. I love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. No, I just discovered something. Yeah, it's very cool. I'm a happy camper. Good indeed. All right, sorry, little private aside there. I like it when just wonderful little tiny small little things sometimes come about. All right, please continue reading, Bina.
Yes. On cue, the signs retreated. The machine subsided somewhat. Just a steady, slow tap, tap, tap was heard. The machine was waiting, not patiently, but it was waiting. I too can wait. Shah smiled to herself. A deep skill she had taught herself. She looked around the clearing into the forest surrounding it, at the machine, taking everything in, not looking at anything in particular, just noticing it, taking the opportunity to find herself, get her bearings.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I had the thing overlapping there, right?
Yes.
taking the opportunity to find herself.
Yes.
Right? Very, very, very simple little sentence there, but the big sentence. Now also we see the deeper logic of the machine, right? Now we don't know how this machine will work with other people, but in particular with Shah, right? That tap, tap, tap. You can just imagine it like sort of tapping its foot on it there, like, come on, hurry up. All right, this wasn't impatient, but well, it's forcing itself to be patient. But it brings out a little bit of Shah's competitiveness and say, well, I too can wait. So now she gets motivated by this prompt, this prodding, right? It gets her to be more of herself than she might. If the machine had just been silent, she might not have been extra patient. See?
Mm.
In this case, it's making her to wait even longer, to be even more open because, well, okay, we wait now. Well, I'll show you I can wait even more, right? It brings out, it's leveraging what's already in her in a very unusual way, right? So the machine understands psychology, obviously. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's very cool. It's very cool. Very cool. Again, assisting Shah to get to Moreness, because is a crucial turning point of the entire story. This retreat, this going into this inner silence, but it's not just silence, right? Because a lot of times when people are silenced, like in meditation, you switch in off, right? And at least it's not what the idea of meditation is, right? But what people understand. But nonetheless, in this case, what she's doing is, instead of being focused on a particular point, she is focusing on everything, right?
Yes.
So she's going from spotlight awareness into floodlight awareness. She's now saying, let me be aware of everything, not just particular focus, right? So it's a shift of attention, not the cessation of attention.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Shift of attention. And this is a key part of the whole story. This moment now. It's what makes everything that's to come work. Right?
Yes.
So let's go back here. Let's go back just a little bit here, right? So where are we in the story? We are in a story where she made her creation. She pulled and pushed on the levers, right? Input, she put the input in there. And then, she tried as best she can to do whatever it is to what you do with the input, and nothing happened, right? And then the machine spat it out very rudely, right? And then it is all unconnected, boring, unfocused. What were you thinking? Come on. right? So we're at a very profound point where Shah is like, what's going on here now, right? And look at the question that she asks. And when we are in, oh, why? It keeps skipping that slide there. Oh, it's this one here. Sorry. When we are in positions where our energy is being completely engaged, when we are in fully immersed, when we ask questions at such time, those questions become very profound because they're not distracted questions. All of our energy goes into it. All of our intent goes into it. So when Sher says, what am I missing here? Right? And Shah thought earnestly, there's a cue there. The story is telling you that this is an earnest question. In other words, it's an intent. Yes. So she asks, what am I missing? And now this what's coming on. This moment, this turn in the story is where she starts to connect what she's missing. Yeah, she gets her answer. Right? It's a very, very simple little point there, but a huge point. That's an interesting point that's coming up here, Ramsey. You know, I call them come up takeaways. When stuff comes up inside us that's not specifically connected as a takeaway from what's going on. It's a bit of a jump. Right? It's a bit of a jump, but they're always connected. And this comment where you say, sometimes, if not always, I definitely don't think it's always, but sometimes, yes, the utmost nobility rises from our deepest wounds. It's a very interesting point. I have to think about that one. I don't know if nobility specifically arises from our deepest wounds, but conclusions, awarenesses, understandings, moreness, yes. But nobility is a particular thing. It's a very particular thing. That's very interesting. Unless you've just taken it in your particular usage of the word nobility, you mean it in a much broader, more encompassing way. Yeah, it could be. Mm-hmm. That was very good indeed. That's a very interesting point, Ramsey. That's a very interesting point. Hang on to it and elaborate on it as we go through things. I think there's a lot more to that potentially. There's a lot more to that. That's quite something. That's quite an interesting statement. That's very interesting. No, don't do that. Stay wide and then go. There we go. No. I'm trying to set it so that it just will stay big like that, see, but not interfere with the text. Well, never mind then. That's a very, very, very interesting point, Ramsey. I thought I'd like to hear more on that because it's again, I'm not sure if nobility rises from our deepest wounds, but I assume certainly it can prompt us from this this opposite logic that comes in. And I call it excess breeds excess. This has just been a saying of mine for the longest time. Excess breeds excess. So when we have a deep wound, and typically if that wound has come about through some ignobility, right? Ignoble, IG noble. Ignobility, in other words, badness, negativity, horribleness, right? Ignobility. It leads to the opposite, which is nobility. So sure. Now, not everything is opposites, though. This is very important to understand. We tend to, since most things we can find an opposite for, doesn't mean that all things have opposites, right? It's a way we sort of trained our minds. But the simple obviousness of this is, well, we tend to think black and white, but then you got gray, and then, well, there's also color. Oh, well, there goes your opposite theory. Well, not yours, but people's in general. So this is a very important understanding, very, very important understanding that, hey, we can't get lost in opposites. Yes. So look at this beautiful painting here of somebody paying attention to the world. Yeah. I thought, this reflectiveness and the eye, we can't see that the eye is closed, but by implication, they're just looking down. It's not closed. Yes. I mean, you can really if you're paying attention, but yeah. So even though we can't see the eye, they are still paying attention, right? They're looking elsewhere that we can't see. But just all of the stuff. That was just a great painting there too. I put a lot of attention into the stuff. Obviously, I'm just saying I'm just enjoying it here. I just noticed it again, and I read the other time I didn't. So here is Shah now immersing in the awareness of the world around her. Now, something very important that's happening here. We were talking about being bombarded. We can do this in any environment. It doesn't matter, right? Any environment. You don't have to be in nature to do this, right? You just happen to be there. But then that you could be in the middle of the city, you can be in your computer, you can be in the middle of the internet. Pay attention to what's going on around you, right? There's always value there. She heard sounds of animal life, the wind, the sounds of the machine. Nothing exceptional or noteworthy. The story clues us. The story clues us. Nothing exceptional or noteworthy. Except the machine, of course. But that's already a known. Right? It's not anything new. She tried to think of everything, take stock of it all. But something in her wouldn't let her mind focus on anything specific. The very subtle point here. Again, when you're in the situation, don't fight unnecessarily. Fight when appropriate, but don't also fight when it's not appropriate. That's part of impeccability. Our theme is to pay attention to impeccability, recognize it, see where it's at, right? So when something in her mind wouldn't let her mind focus on anything specific, her mind is saying best use of energy, best use of energy. This is not a time to be fighting and figuring out and struggling and making the effort. No, this is the time to be doing something else. This is the time for letting it come, right? Best use of energy, let it come. Other times, best use of energy is do, think, figure out, apply, etc. Right? Best use of energy. Very impeccable, yeah, very impeccable. See, different meaning of the word impeccability. It's a very profound concept. It's not even a word, it's a concept. Shah didn't fight it. Good for you, Shah. You've learned something. Yes, she'd learned that much. Just be at ease and let it come, she heard internally. So something somewhere in her training had stuck, right? And she paid attention at the time. That's usually what happens. If we pay attention, everything gets filed in our filing system. When we pay attention, we're adding tags to it, right? We're giving it energy. So paying attention is making sure things get filed. And when they are filed well, they are going to be more easy to retrieve. So in this case, it was filed there, the situation, it's appropriate, and that's it. Our brains are appropriateness machines. We just have to make it easier for our brains to be appropriate. So when the thing came up, it's, well, this is appropriate right now. That's what appropriateness is. Trust your brain to be able to bring up what's appropriate for you, but pay attention in the first place so that it's tagged appropriately so that it can do that for you. Right? The machine can only go with how you train it to work, and tagging is essential to it, right? Tagging, conceptualizing, understanding, right? Same thing, right? Attention, tagging, attention. Very, very powerful. Very, very, very powerful. All right, what are you saying here, Ramsey? From the deepest wounds point. Well, the amount of damage people tried to inflict on me for so many reasons, or for no reason at all, made me become the sponge. I talked about and decided to return all this to what's around me in a shining, merciful way. The more some people tried to hurt, the more healing I spread to people what is around me. The best way to fight darkness is by lighting your flashlight. Exactly. And making it a spotlight even. Yes, yes, yes. I understand what you're saying. Yes, yes. That's a profound motivation. Yes. And that's just from your deep inner goodness was prompted. And so in the same way as the machine is using not so niceness to prompt Shah a little bitty, the universe, the world use that same mechanism on you, Ramsey. Sometimes we need to be prodded a little bit. Sometimes we need those signs to smack us a bit on the backside to say, come, 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 to shepherd us, to prod us, to push us a little bit to get to where we need to be, right? So the world does that to us also. Now, it doesn't have to do that. Like we said, Shah could have gone in a different direction and could have had a very different experience with the machine. But typically the machine is there for aspirants, right? And if you're already in the space where you're going to have fun with doing this, well, then the lesson isn't going to be quite as powerful, right? So it's only super powerful because you need it and you're stuck and you can't get it on your own without it. So it becomes a necessary thing. And this is the same with the world. The world does exactly what the machine does, right? The same mechanism, same mechanism. That's very cool what you shared there, Ramsey. That's very, I understand, and, I see what you're saying, and it's a very powerful thing. Yes. And it's magical that it led you to nobility, not just to do your own thing, for instance, right? As opposed to, like retreating from the world, just being in our own bubble, but specifically to do noble actions, which is bonus goodness. Nobility is bonus goodness. All right, so Shah is just be at ease and let it come, she heard internally. A crow entered her wide vision, still far away, flying towards the clearing. Shah loved crows. She remembered stories where crows had always been integral. They'd been significant. That had appealed to her. While she was thinking this, the crow flew overhead. Shah looked at it directly, focusing in on it. Right as she did so, the crow squawked, made a sharp, hard banking turn, looked back at her, and, with an energetic flapping of its wings, flew off. Wow, wow, wow. Right as she did so, here's the key. She looked at it directly. Right. So first of all, a crow flying overhead. Nothing unusual in that. It's pretty ordinary, pretty normal, right? Not a big deal. But then she looks at it directly because she likes crows. Right? She's singling it out. I mean, her objective, her intent was to be absorbed with everything, right? But this draws her attention. And she doesn't necessarily mean to do so, but it happens. Yes? She focuses in on it directly. Right? First, she looks at it directly, then focuses in on it. So two things: paying attention, and going and zooming in. In other words, when she's focusing in on it, she's putting her energy onto the crow. Yeah. So what happens with that energy? Right as she did so. Now, this is you can, other times you look at crows, you pay attention to them, and they don't necessarily react, right? So this is the start of the anomaly, right? Is that right as she did so, the crow squawked, made a sharp, hard banking turn. Right? That's when you do a sharp, hard banking turn in flight, this takes quite a lot of energy and quite a lot of doing. It's a very significant thing, right? That's a very deliberate reactivity, right? To her look, she didn't say anything. She didn't startle us. She just looked. She didn't shout at the crow. She looked at it. She focused on it. In other words, it was not the look necessarily or the focus, because we know we've done this other times and nothing happened, but the particular energy of the moment and the reactivity. In other words, its behavior is anomalous, right? It made a sharp, hard banking turn, looked back at her. Just looking back, taking it out. Turn, look back. And then, with an energetic flapping of wings, flew off. This is a very anomalous behavior. If you've ever observed birds, right, you'll know that you've looked at plenty of birds. No bird has ever done that. Yes. Or at least I won't say ever, because I have had similar experiences, right? Not exactly, but similar. In other words, where something is responding to your attention. It happens. It happens. Yeah, yeah, yeah. When birds eat ants. When birds die, the ants eat them. We humans don't have to be involved in this game. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah. Anyway, we are involved. When we die, the worms eat us. We don't always eat the worms, though. But yeah, there's a big cycle, and we're a part of it. So it's very important. Yeah. Even if we get cremated, our energy goes somewhere, right? Gets out into the world as energy. You can't destroy energy. It just reformulates in some other way. So it's very powerful. Yeah, yeah. But you're right. We don't have to be involved in the superiority paradigm. In other words, that's what I'm hearing you say, right, Ramsey? It's a choice to be involved in the superiority paradigm. We can opt out of it. Yeah. So my point that I'm getting at here is, though, right, we want to pay attention to this thing that happens right here. From this moment when Shah looked at it directly, focusing on it. Right as she did so, the crow squawked, making a sharp, hard banking turn, looked back at her, and with an energetic flapping of its wings, flew off. This is anomalous. This is anomalous. Yes, this is anomalous. Oh, love you too, Bina. Norma, love you too, Norma. Love you too, Norma. So we don't have to be a part of it. But this anomaly, this is the key. This is the changing point, right? Look, she's stepping back in order to get more, because she's stuck. She wants to know, what am I missing? This is the question she asks. And then the answer comes. The answer comes in this. If we abstract it, and this is the key point, in order to understand these things, we have to learn how to think abstractly. So what she's been missing is an anomaly. Yeah. Did you see that? Shah exclaimed excitedly, forgetting a resolve not to say anything. Remember, they're playing this game, what will be forced out of you. Yeah. This had indeed been forced from her, the way the crow had looked at her. No, Biella simply said, waiting for more. The crow, it looked back at me as it turned away. Didn't you see? Shah had noticed Biella looking up at the crow when it had cawed. No, not cawed. It had been a squawk, like it had responded to a focused attention on it. No, Shah, that was just for you. Double anomaly. Yes. So not only the bird's behavior, but the fact that she's the only one who saw that, not Biella. Even though Biella had been looking at the bird, didn't see it either, right? It's just for Shah. That's how anomalies are. They become impossible. They become impossible. They become unrealistic, unusual, peculiar, weird, strange, defying odds, defying statistics, defying probability. Those are all what make anomalies anomalies, yes. Before Shah could protest or elaborate further, she wanted to explain. But the machine had other ideas, apparently. It came alive, perhaps invigorated by Shah's energy. Arms moved, retracting and shifting, the machine changing shape and size. Hello, now slightly smaller in actual dimension, but seemed much more so, because it was somehow neater, more organized. The machine is cueing her to saying, hey, things are starting to come together. They're getting a bit neater, a bit more organized. They're still a bit loose. They're still a bit scruffy, right? But it's starting to happen, starting to happen. It's a clue. It's a clue from the machine. Right? Ramsey, that's just exactly, this is what these lives are all about. This book is all about. This big sharing is all about. It's not about me saying, here's a different way to live. You should live this way. You should believe this way. You should think this way. No, it's this. I cannot do that. I'm saying, here's an alternative. That's all. If you pay attention and you say, oh, here is an alternative. You were lamenting there, you were lamenting the existence of the superiority paradigm, right? Humans don't have to be involved in this game. Now I'm capital H, hearing your lament. Yes? So you're lamenting the superiority paradigm, but yeah, on Nobelia and the way they interact, everything that's going on, this entire culture is saying, here's an alternative. Where there's one, there can be more. Right? So the possibility of alternatives exists. We're going to go through this to say, is this a plausible alternative, or is it just unrealistic, can't happen? If it's at least plausible, we know that something or something similar or some alternative can exist, right? And now we don't know, we're not doomed, it's not hopeless, and we don't have to lament. We can lament the fact that the superiority paradigm causes so much trouble, but we're not going to lament that that's our only option. It's not. It's not our only option. We can step out of it, right? This is very powerful. So now the machine is getting somehow neater, more organized. Things are starting to fall into place. Just when Shah thought the machine was improving, it slapped two signs together right in front of her, presented them for inspection, right in her face. Input. Now, they read. They didn't wait for more than half a second and started to shepherd Shah towards the table, ushering her along with the flat sides in a most appropriate way. She actually felt a slight smack or two on her backside. It's like, come on, signs. You're rude. At the table, 6 signs waited, impatient and excited. Pick, 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 they all read. Shah had no time to think or object to the rude manner of the signs prodding her. She reached deeper across the table, her hand almost instinctually going towards one of the animal shapes. As soon as her hand closed on it, the sign shifted to pushing her towards an opening. The 6 danced the chorus, now displaying in. Shah barely had time to notice the object in the shape of a bird. The object was in the shape of a bird. Wow. Levers appeared just where her hand was, inviting her to pull on them. Shah did so. Seeing they affected the shape of the wing, she pulled and pushed. Full attention on what happened, adjusting accordingly. The wing started to take form. It responded, conforming now to the image in her mind's eye of the extended wing of the crow as it had banked away. But the eye and the way the head had been turned just so. And on this year, wow, it's much later than I realized. So on this year now, we'll leave it right here. We see the nature of emphasis. Yes, and it helps us to understand emphasis. And her impeccability says, I have to honor that emphasis. I have to give that emphasis due respect, right? Because that's how it all works, due respect. And when something has been emphasized for you by the moreness, how do you not pay attention to it? How do you not give it due respect? Yes. So, and emphasis things stick in us, and they stick in us for good reason. And we sometimes it's a reason that it needs to be resolved. We need to come to understanding. And other times it's this inspiration, right? It's the garden of inspiration. Remember that, right? So now Shah is inspired. Yes. I like this picture of the machine here, but it's kind of a different one. You know, I looked so hard for a peculiar, odd, and unusual machine that is got nature behind it. Yeah, because this is in this little clearing in this untended part of forest, right? Wild forest is a little clearing, and that was at the time. This is the only one I could ever find. You know. So, you know, of some that's not a sort of a recognizable machine. I've no idea what this could possibly be. So who knows? Who knows? Again, I never found ones with levers and nods and all sorts of things. But you know, that was the day before AI and AI art. If I get some time, sometime, I will I'll put those paragraphs describing the machine into the AI art creation things and see what they come up with. That should be fun. That should be fun. Before I go, any thoughts, Ramsey? Closing thoughts? Elizabeth, if you're still here. Norma said she had to go. But in case you watch the replay, Norma, because she normally does, please share what comes up in you. Same with you, Elizabeth. You know, if you do get a chance. I always like to hear from you guys. So this is a profound point, you know, Ramsey, to go back to your point there, to say that we don't have to be consumed. If I take your ants eat birds, birds eat ants. We don't have to be consumed by the superiority paradigm. And I mean consumed in more ways than one. As in immersed in it, lost in it, or involved in it, and eaten up by it, because that's what the superiority paradigm does. It's a no possibility of value system, and it consumes us. It eats us up, right? It's a terrible system. And that's why we want to look for alternatives. And maybe the universe put this there to say, yeah, you know what? How much suck are you willing to endure before you say, is there something else? How much suck are you willing to endure before you say, is there something else? Inspiration, creativity. Simply because we don't know what else there is doesn't mean it cannot come to us. Another point of the story, right? She couldn't resolve it on her own. She stepped back, allowing the solutions to appear, right? She still has to grab them and take them. But in the same way, if we step back from the superiority paradigm and say, what else is there potentially, and wait for it. Set that intent to see it, to come it. We come up with stuff like this, right? This is how the story comes about. Very, very powerful. Oh, absolute pleasure, Ramsey. Always such a joy and a pleasure to have you here. And especially to hear your heart, Ramsey. Especially to hear your heart. This is a deep privilege and an honor. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. Wonderful, 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 wonderful. All right, bye-bye, everybody. Sorry, Bina didn't come back, and everybody, it's just like a whole day, everybody dropping off. Some days just is that way. It is what it is, right? But it came to this point where we could connect on this point, Ramsey. You know, may have been gotten lost with other side tracks. It's a big point. It's a big point for you that you're sharing there, yes? A very big point. So I love that. So Ramsey, going forward, thank you, Ramsey. So going forward, I am keen to hear about Ramsey's alternatives, Ramsey's utopias, Ramsey's alternative ideologies, right? Not with how to deal with the superiority paradigm, but what you would replace it with, how it would work for you, your personal moreness philosophy, your personal nobility, right? And what that is. You see what I mean? But in its own self, like this, like the story, and there's almost no superiority paradigm stuff in here. Even when the machine is supposedly behaving this way, it's not actually, right? So I'm keen to hear about that. Now this is a big ask. I mean, you may end up writing your own books, but you're already an award-winning author, so you know how to write. So make up your own utopia. Doesn't matter how long it takes, right? I am keen to hear. I mean, I'm not saying do this, of course, but if you have thoughts along that line, I want to hear more. I want to hear more. It's a very powerful thing to do when we start to shift into that creativity, creating these alternative ways of being in reality. Because the more we do it, the more comes into it. Yes. Excuse me. It's very, very powerful. Very, very powerful. All right. I'll see you guys tomorrow, and we'll end it right there. This is too magical. And again, to anybody listening to this, no matter where you're doing this, whether you're seeing it here in Facebook, on my timeline, or in like Substack, for instance, leave comments, people. I will respond to them always. I'm very, very diligent and thoroughly scrupulous when it comes to following up on comments, right? I always make an effort to do so. So anybody, YouTube, wherever you see this, comment and ask, share what goes on inside you. Doesn't matter how related or unrelated it is. Doesn't matter. Look at some of Ramsey's comments here. You might think, well, where does the ants and the birds things come from? It seems unrelated, but it's not, right? So nothing is ever unrelated, and we understand that. So we'll always respond. We'll always respond. Please, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. All right. Bye-bye. 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 Good morning to you all. Good morning to you all.